that they like just
What's
describe a
up?
binge.
We are live.
That's great.
We're
No,
live.
keep going. Keep going, Adrian.
It's like 12 pages of them just describing the goddamn binge.
Yeah.
Like, it's just brutal. It's just,
Yeah.
So in the book, there is on the audio book, because I broke down like a bitch and got the audio book. So in the audio book, it starts with the dragon reborn that breaks the world, right?
Correct.
Okay. So in the book, it starts, there's another introduction or something like that starts off with 9-year-old Egwene running around, getting water, fighting with her sister, talking about braiding her hair, and this whole thing. And I'm serious. I read 30 pages of this. This thing is 40 pages of just 9-year-old Egwene going down to the river, one of the two rivers, getting a pail of water, walking it back up. They're having like a little festival. It might be the same festival that they're talking about in chapter 1.
Winter's Night or whatever it's called.
Yeah, whatever it is, the one Moraine shows up to. And she's just giving water around and talking about honey cakes. And
When is this? Is this like is this
The prologue.
The prologue. Oh, okay.
yeah, this is before any of the
But like
Rand's dad thing stuff.
but once you get into chapter 1, it does start similar to the show. Like obviously things are different, but
Well, it feels like the show starts on chapter 2.
kind of.
Basically, the show starts with Moraine and Lan and rolling up. So chapter 1 is all about Rand's dad.
Do you feel
by
like-
the way, since you guys are here for the Big Four conversation with Slayer, not for Wheel of Time conversation,
book reading.
look below down here. We're gonna have some timestamps for when we actually start talking about this shit.
As
Yeah.
long as Dave doesn't forget.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
So do you think the audiobook has been a better experience for you?
Absolutely. And look,
Yeah, I'm about an hour and a half in, and it's good.
it's still been difficult because my ADHD kicks in or something, and I'll be listening to it. I'm like, where the fuck am I at? And I have to rewind it or skip back or whatever. But it's
I had a little bit of that too.
yeah, it's like I said, I'm pretty sure that I have read one of his books prior, but it was a different series, and I remember like not being able to finish the book. Just too much detail. Like what Josh was saying, like 4 or 5 pages to describe like the desk in a room. And it's just like no.
Well, I think doing the audiobook, you're not so you have no idea
you're
what
not
page
having
you're
to-
on.
You're not having to absorb every word. Like
You're just hearing it, and I like it.
All I have to say this: Wheel of Time and talking about us reading is a perfect segue into Slayer.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right.
So overall, I was thankful. I mean, we're not starting the pod yet, but I would just say like I was definitely thankful to get away from Anthrax. If you haven't listened to
Big time.
Anthrax Metalhead's journey, I will just tell you
wanting.
that leg of the journey was difficult. And I've already listened to a couple of albums from Anthrax. The next two,
And the next set, yeah.
bro, there is no water in the desert of Anthrax.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I think we should speed up the process here and not drag this out for another 4 weeks. I think we should do the next pod in like 2 weeks with Anthrax.
Speaking of which, Adrian had a suggestion.
Hit me.
don't pin this on me, Dave.
Okay, then I will take the bullet for you. What do we say we do what is the date? What is the date?
Please put more on our plate, Dave.
29. 29 is when we're going to hit up the Anthrax pod.
So in
Well, just a little under
20
3
days?
weeks.
Just a little under 3 weeks.
Okay.
Okay.
We're just going to get it done, knock it out, you know.
I'll spend 2.5 weeks listening to Sound of White Noise.
Don't do that. You actually do need to give the other albums a fair shake.
One time through. First 30 seconds.
You don't do that. You know what? Hey, look, let's just get into it. Unless we have other things we want to talk about, let's just get into this Slayer here.
You see how Dave is like, don't just do the first 30 seconds. Adrian, have you ever seen the movie Sophie's Choice?
I'm aware of it, and I'm aware of the choice she has to make. Meryl Streep. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
What about it?
Well, so at the end of that movie, Dave, how does that movie end?
Well, I know now
how did you think it ended?
According to Dave's world, how did that movie end?
So I thought it ended with the him showing up to the house where they all live, seeing that she had left, and that was the end of the movie.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, this movie, like, what a anticlimactic ending.
So we get to the podcast where we're talking about Sophie's Choice.
Hold on, real quick. I need to add a little bit of context. So here's what happened. Okay, the movie is playing. Okay, it's like I had to stop it, like right there, and I came back to it, and I hit play. What Amazon does is if you are so certain percentage close to the end, it doesn't say resume. It just says play. So I thought I had finished the movie. I was like, okay, I guess it ends there. And I move on with my life. Go ahead, Josh.
So this is a long story to say. Don't take advice from Dave on finishing things. So we get to the podcast and we're talking about the end of the movie.
We're live.
And we're talking about the end of the movie. And so the movie ends in a double suicide with Kevin Kline and Meryl Streep's character. Yeah. And so me and Jason are talking about it, and Dave just goes like quiet. Doesn't say anything for a little while.
I can't believe that it was a suicide. They're both dead, just laying there in the bed. And
yeah.
Dave's just like,
Dave's like, yeah, man, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's a crazy ending.
What a way to end it.
Yeah.
While I'm Googling the end of
Sophie's Choice. While I'm literally pulling up Google to find out how this movie ended. Because here's the crazy part. One of my notes, one of my problems with the movie was the ending.
I wish we got to that issue before somebody else said something about it.
And it was I think it was either Jason or Josh. One of y'all just mentioned the ending in passing. You were like, yeah, man, it's like Romeo and Juliet, man. They just kill each other. And I'm like,
they what?
I don't break character, but if you go back and watch it, you can see the moment that the lights turn on in my brain.
He gets very serious, and you can see him look at his monitor.
Yeah, you see my screen, my flashing in my glasses. I'm pulling up the internet.
Anyway, don't listen to Dave.
Yeah, don't skip the end.
Movies, and the last 5 minutes of every movie is pointless. Just stop it.
All right,
do it.
Do it. Pull it.
I didn't listen to any of these albums.
Only the last 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Perfect. Hello, and welcome to Three Guys and a Mic presents A Metalhead's Journey, The Big Four, Slayer, albums 5 through 8. I'm your co-host, The Human Dart, along with
Jason Tsunami,
David Disaster,
Adrian Aftershock.
Let's go.
Hey, man, we made it.
Let's go.
Let's kill some bleeding hearts here.
Yeah. Man, it is nice to like actually hear a band that has creativity,
Yeah. Is this part 2 of the shit on Anthrax podcast?
Oh, hey, everyone who is just now, if this is your first time to this journey, let me save you the trouble. Anthrax, they ain't gonna make it through this journey, okay?
I don't know if I'm gonna make it through this journey if we have to keep fucking listening to Anthrax.
Man.
We can do this.
Hey, Scott Ian, if you're out there,
write your own music.
Yeah.
You're letting Joey.
Yeah,
You're letting the fucking Charlie Benedante write your guitar riffs. Come on.
Yeah.
So I'm guilty. Off the podcast from the last one, I gave certain scores to these Anthrax albums, but when we got to these Slayer albums and we started listening to competent musicians making competent music again,
we course corrected.
I had to adjust my scores.
So did I. So
I just get it right the first time.
So, Adrian, do you have an additional adjustment, or
No.
you're just putting on record that we did that? Okay. Yeah. So.
Oh, you guys did this off podcast?
Yeah. So basically, just while we're here, I think essentially, I personally just raised all of my Anthrax scores by 10. Yeah.
Jesus.
So just to reiterate, for me, I will just go over mine. In order from the first to the fourth: 46, 43, 78, 91. Those are my Anthrax scores for the first 4 records. And hey, again, if you're new here, the higher the score, the worst. So those are not good scores.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, if you are new here, then you probably don't know quite what's going on. So we decided a little while back here that we were going to take a journey through the big 4 of thrash metal. We're all big Metallica fans. We've all been very anti-Megadeth. Not very much into Slayer, not very much into Anthrax in most of our lives here. So we decided we were going to force feed ourselves into listening to these other bands just to see if they were, worth the hype.
Yep.
And what we found so far through this journey here is that we certainly missed the boat on Megadeth. Megadeth showed up very, very well with some great classic albums.
I didn't listen to that trash.
Yeah, you're missing out. The first 4 Slayer records, pretty damn good. And the first 4 Anthrax records, not so much.
No.
So we're excited, as you've probably been able to pick up through context here. We're excited to be back talking about Slayer this week. We're talking about the next 4 albums, so it's their 5th through their 8th album.
What are those albums, Josh? Just for sake of it.
You have Seasons in the Abyss, you have Divine Intervention, you have Diabolus and Musica.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
And whatever. And you have God Hates Us All.
Yeah. So those were, I have it here, so I might as well say it. Those were released in 1990, 1994, 1998, and 2001, respectively.
Yep.
That's a big gap in between those. They must have had a lot of touring and some time off.
Yeah, so what's Metallica's excuse?
Lots of touring.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, look, they wrote the Black Album, then they toured on it for 5 years and made fucking $100 million.
Oh, we'll get to Metallica. We'll get to them.
That's right. So I mean, just overarching before we kind of get into it, like you guys said earlier, it's just refreshing to kind of be back. It's funny is those are words I never thought I'd really say about Slayer. It's refreshing to listen to Slayer.
Yeah.
But it really is like it's so different. I know I said this to Dave the other day, but it's just. And Dave said creativity earlier, and that's the way I'm trying to sum up, I think, Anthrax, is there is just an overarching lack of creativity when it comes to the music in Anthrax. Whereas with Slayer here, again with Slayer, where I think the thing I thought about Slayer coming in to start in the first 4 albums was there's not going to be a ton of differences, right? Like, everything's going to sound exactly the same. And we found out in the first 4 Slayer records while they're all metal, they're all very different. And I think these 4 records are very different. So I think that's probably one of the coolest things I've taken away so far is that I'm surprised really by how different and how versatile Slayer is going album to album and how good they can do it. Even Metallica, and listen, I love Metallica more than anybody else. Bam, here you go, Metallica tattoo. They're not as good at changing between like the different genres of metal, maybe as Slayer is in some way. Like going to Saint Anger. Like, look, I love Saint Anger. I love it. But there are Slayer albums that are going to be higher scored than that. So I think I'm just really impressed by how like easy it seems that they can go from like different styles of metal.
Adrian, go ahead. Go ahead, Jason. Go ahead.
I'll keep mine shorter, but I'm going to agree with Josh. It doesn't always work for me because Slayer is not exactly my cup of tea in the metal genre. But to what Josh says, they really do. Especially, I noticed more for me, like in the way that they vocalize their music. It's very different from either song to song or album to album. And they try and change it up so that it doesn't sound as repetitive from album to album to album. And one of these albums, I actually heard a lot of bass. I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
So I agree with Josh. They are not afraid to do something different.
Adrian?
Just like Josh said, it is so refreshing to get away from Anthrax. And, Josh had mentioned when he heard State of Euphoria that it made him hate music. And, it made him like music less. Let me rephrase. I thought that was like a little overboard, if I'm being honest with you. But then putting on Seasons in the Abyss, which the opening track is War Ensemble, which is a song I'm familiar with, and I immediately knew. I mean, he's right. Like, holy shit! Like, it was like that day that I was like, I have to change my goddamn Anthrax scores. And even moving from album to album, even though each one of these, I'd rather listen to any of these. The worst one I'm going to rate today, the one I rate the worst, I should say. I'd rather listen to it 100 times than go back to Anthrax. I mean, and for just once, like it really is just that bad. I am, this wasn't the best showing for Slayer for me. These 4 albums, but I think each album has its moments, and one of them in particular I would consider really, really good. But yeah, just like Josh, if I can echo you there, I did think we were going to start getting into all the songs start sounding the same territory at a certain point with Slayer. And though I kind of feel that's the case with one of these albums, to an extent, that they come out with these albums and they all have their own distinctive identity. And,
and I think that's important, right? It's. I guess when I think of Slayer, I think their entire catalog is going to sound exactly the same because I think about everybody saying, "Well, we've never written a ballad," and blah 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 blah. No. Like if you go to like God Hates Us All, right? I mean, like you can if you hear a song from that, it's from that album. Like they all, right. I don't want to say they all sound the same, but they're all in the same ballpark, right?
Sure.
But going album to album is very different.
Yeah. So, I mean, you guys said a lot of what I was going to say, so I'll try to sum up. Coming into this, of the 4, Slayer was the one that I had the least hope that I would enjoy. I'm going to be honest. I thought Slayer was going to be the least creative. My only knowledge of Slayer was Rain and Blood, and it's been the one I've up to this point. Not anymore. Spoiler alert. But it was the one I enjoyed the least in the previous 4. Just because everything sounded the same to me. And I was thinking, okay, this is how Slayer is. Like, this is what Slayer's about. I thought Anthrax was going to be like the 1 or 2 songs I heard from Anthrax. I was like, okay, this might be something unique and different. And, I had only heard one Megadeth album, but I figured Megadeth would be pretty decent. But man, Slayer has really been the surprise horse out of all 3. I mean, Megadeth's been good, but I wouldn't say Megadeth has been surprisingly good for me. I kind of expected sort of what we're getting here, but Slayer has been shocking in a good way. So,
Yeah.
I guess.
All right,
let's get into it.
let's hop in. Yep.
Both.
All right, so here we go. So the first album we're talking about tonight is their fifth album. This is Seasons in the Abyss. This came out in October of 1990. This album peaked at number 40 on the Billboard charts. I linked this to you guys. I don't know. I hope you guys watched it or at least gave it a second. This album spawned their first music video for the title track, Seasons in the Abyss. The video was filmed outside of the Great Pyramids in Giza.
Whoa.
This album was better received than South of Heaven since it does go back to some more of their thrashy style. So I guess, as we remember with South of Heaven, it was a little bit more mid-tempo. So this one does pick up the pace a little bit.
Yeah.
So judging by Adrian's reaction there, you guys didn't click on that
I
video
watched
I
it.
sent.
I watched it.
Gomez, you watch it?
I got shit people send me, man. I'm sorry. I'm terrible
Jason,
at
did
that.
you watch it?
No,
Jason, you lied.
Did we lose the fossil?
I
I can't hear him.
Oh, I'm here. No, I didn't watch it. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So it was funny. I had this conversation with Dave, and I felt like Dave was like trying to defend Slayer here, but this video is really terrible. It's so cringy and just bad, and it's just so funny to think like this to me is just like you guys should go watch this video afterwards because it just really shows you the separation and what like Metallica is capable of versus all these other bands. Because Metallica's first video came out 2 years or 3 years, 2 years I think before this video, and it is like
Night and day.
8 million times better.
What is like the theme? Like, what makes it so bad? The production?
They're standing in front of the pyramid and playing the song, and that's it.
Oh. Okay.
I mean,
That's it. At least if you're Creed, you're standing on a mountaintop, and there's eagles flying around, right?
Are you
No,
really
this is just
bringing up Creed?
why Creed's a better band than Slayer.
What?
Don't be stupid. Oh my.
Anyway, so hey, I'll start on Seasons unless somebody else wants to.
No,
Go
do
for
it.
it.
Do it.
All you.
So I wasn't going to say much about production on these 4 albums, but I feel like it's going to have to be a conversation on one of these other albums. So I'll just say on here that the production is good. This record had some really, really good riffs. The solos continue to be just really the biggest black eye on any of these Slayer albums. The solos are awful. This is going to be a common theme for me across the next 4 albums, dude. But Tom Araya is the fucking of Slayer for me. Like, his vocals, especially as we go through the next 4 albums, are fucking great. For me, this album, so your highlights, Spirit in Black, great riff. Dead Skin Mask, again, just great vocals on that one, another cool riff. Expendable Youth, great song. And then I also have Temptation. So we were talking about this off pod here a second ago about this song Temptation. So there's 2 different vocal lines going at the same time in this song. So I guess apparently what had happened is Tom Araya sang the vocals the way he wanted to sing them, and then they did another take where he sang them the way Kerry King wanted him to sing them, and then the guy who was mixing the album accidentally left both tracks on there, and they played it, and they liked how it sounded. So when you listen to Temptation and you hear those 2 vocal tracks, that's what that's from.
That's pretty cool.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I only have one low light on this album. Title track, Seasons in the Abyss. Not a great song, unfortunately, for those guys.
That's
so
like
if you are new
your
here,
opinion.
okay. So if you are new here, we do have our own proprietary rating system for music, movies, TV shows, videos, everything like that. It's called the Shitometer, and name of the game here is you want the lowest score possible.
Correct.
Anything below a 50 is good, and we would recommend it. Anything above a 50 is varying levels of hot shit.
Accurate.
Like a hot steamer.
Yeah, basically. So I'll give my Shitometer score here first. I am going to come in with this album at a 40.
All right.
I'll go next because I feel like I need to redeem that score that's criminally low.
I like the album. It's fine.
Yeah, I think it's more than fine, but hey, you know what? That's why there's 4 of us here. So I think that this is one of the best Slayer albums that they've ever had. I think this album pretty much slams from start to finish, and the highlights I have are War Ensemble, Spirit in Black, Skeletons of Society. I mean, I could pretty much go on and on, but
War Ensemble is incredibly overrated.
It's a great song.
I know that's supposed to be like one of the top 15 Slayer songs or whatever of all time. I don't get it. Like, it's not a low light for me. It's fine, but that song is incredibly overrated.
I think it's great. I also have Seasons in the Abyss as a highlight. I also have Seasons in the Abyss as a highlight as well. This album has no low lights for me. I think it's pretty much, spoiler alert here. I think it's the only true classic of these 4 that we're doing, and I have it at a 21.
Damn!
Wow.
Jesus.
Okay. We'll go ahead and hop in here. So when I first heard this album all the way through, it took a couple listens, honestly, and I kept giving up. And this kind of goes back to Josh saying Anthrax made him like music less, because I kind of struggled getting past the halfway point of this album, and I kind of had myself convinced that I didn't really like it a whole lot. And I ended up moving on to the albums after it. But when I went back, I'll just say this straight right now. This is my favorite album of the 4 that we listened to. It is a great follow-up to South of Heaven. I mean, it almost sounds like this is it's almost like they're like a
twins.
dual album. Yeah. Like a mesmerized, hypnotized type situation. Obviously the production is, I say it's very similar to South of Heaven, which is totally fine. I will say, as far as guitar work goes, Josh, you say that the solos are a black eye. I think this is the album where they come out, they show what they can actually do the most so far with out of the 8 that we've reviewed, especially the song Seasons in the Abyss. That's like a very, very impressive guitar solo, and that actually tells a story, and it isn't.
I don't know why I didn't just get that song. I don't know. Maybe I got to go back and listen to it 20 more times.
And Tom Araya's singing on this one. I think his vocals on this album are my favorite. He kind of, his bark or growl has always been awesome, but when he whipped out his singing voice in South of Heaven, I wasn't a fan of it. The fucking Offspring style singing, and this time around, his singing voice was like, I just think I would have liked South of Heaven a lot more if his singing voice was as it is in South of Heaven, in Seasons of the Abyss. South of Heaven. Anyway, I have no lowlights. I think there are 3 songs that stand out, which will be my highlights. The other ones, they're not bad. They just, they're just, some of them are just kind of there. Before I say my highlights, I will say I did get some, this is their 5th album, and I did get some, some of the riffs kind of sound a little bit recycled, or as a guitar player, I kind of know what recycled riffs sound like. And some of the riffs even kind of came off as like, so if you're a guitarist, you have this one riff that you can just never really fit into a song. I just got some of those vibes, but you don't want to get rid of it. It's a riff you love, but you just, for some reason you just can't put it into a song. I got that vibe from some of the songs in this album. I don't think the song's terrible, but I'm specifically speaking of Dead Skin Mask.
Great song.
Anyway, my highlights: War Ensemble, underrated song; Spirit in Black, and Seasons in the Abyss.
And your Shudder Meter score?
Oh, Shudder Meter score. I gave just a quick reminder of South of Heaven. I gave it a 30. This one, I guess they kind of go back to their, they speed it up a little bit, but I still prefer South of Heaven just a little bit more. I give this one a 35.
All right, Jason.
Okay. Seasons of the Abyss. This one is of the 4 albums that we were reviewing. This is the one that had the widest range of songs that I liked, as far as the little bit of a rating that I would give each song. This was like all of it. I have like one true highlight, and that's Dead Skin Mask. Love that song. It is my favorite song of the 4 albums. The other highlights, I guess you could have, as far as the second or third, would be Seasons of the Abyss. I think would be a better song. I'd probably like it more if it wasn't 6 minutes long. And Expendable Youth. Lowlights, I really only had 2 lowlights. Temptation, wasn't a big fan of the echo chamber style that Josh referred to earlier. And I did not really care for Hollowed Point. I will say that the production sounded fine. This was a little bit of a, like I said, well, everybody is set up to this point, a little more traditional. And I don't remember what I gave Seasons of the Abyss. I mean, as far as the prior CD.
South of Heaven.
South of Heaven. But Seasons of the Abyss for me came in at a 43.
Cool.
All right. That gives us a average Shadowmeter score of 34.75. That's actually worse than South of Heaven. It's worse than Rain and Blood, and it's worse than Show No Mercy. I think this one has been underrated. I think you guys
agree with all those.
I think you guys praise this album.
Show No Mercy was way better than this.
Yeah, no.
Not to opposite our tracks here, but dude, I was jamming the shit out of their previous 4 albums. They're out. I probably more so than these.
That was a pre-Anthrax world though.
Yeah.
I will say that this album, there's a lot of differences in songs when I go through them, and but again, I think Dead Skin Mask, if I just go by the ratings that I gave it, is my favorite Slayer song. Period. I think I gave that one the best score I've given any other song.
So what score did you give that song? Just out of curiosity.
18.
If you listen to the intro to the song South of Heaven, it's like literally the same notes and patterns as Dead Skin Mask, just not distorted. Just saying.
It might be.
All right, Josh, hit us up.
All right, here we go. All right, so that's our Seasons in the Abyss there. So let's move on to the next album, Divine Intervention.
It's divine.
Excuse me. This album came out in September of 1994. This album peaked at number 8 on the Billboard charts. So I guess they were having some success with Seasons in the Abyss, and it bled over to this album.
Seasons was 40?
What's that?
Seasons was 40 on the charts.
Yeah. Yep.
Damn.
So this one peaks at number 8. Yeah. So for the first time here, we see a lineup change with Slayer, and we have Paul Bostaph joining us on drums here. Dave Lombardo exits the band due to conflict with other band members. I didn't find too much. I didn't dig a ton.
I think they kept it close to the vest. It was just like musical differences, basically.
Yeah, so he exits the band due to conflict with other band members. We know we'll see Dave Lombardo again coming up in a few albums, but for now we get Paul Bostaph. I had this note in here just because I thought this was funny because, spoiler alert, the production on this album is absolute garbage. Tom Araya actually goes on to interview, specifically says that there was more time spent on the production of this album. That's why there was a 4-year gap at albums.
Yeah,
They purposely spent more time on the production.
yeah. I don't know what they were doing with that time.
That tells me that like the bad production's like intentional, and I mean, dude, Kerry King, has gone on record to say that he wishes they spent more time on production. If you ask me, I'm glad they just said fuck it, let's stick with what we have, because holy crap, it's just
Go ahead.
so
Kick us off, Adrian.
cool. So Divine, as it was with this one, is when I first heard it through, it's like, okay, this production's garbage, whatever. I could tell Dave Lombardo was not on drums, even though some people say he just plays the same, 16-note beat every single song. I don't know. There's no fucking touching Dave Lombardo. He's a fucking animal. And
I'm not a drummer, right? I felt like the drums felt more modern on this album. That was a note that I had.
okay.
Yeah, I thought they were noticeably boring.
So yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I just found them dull.
Yeah,
Shoot. So I don't have this noted, but I just it was either the bass or the drums that was just like way too loud in the mix.
the bass drum was fucking.
The drums, and it was just so fuzzy. The rest of the instruments just fuzzier than fuck. I ended up, kind of liking it the first two times I listened to it, and then as time went on, I just started hating it a lot, and so much so that I just, I was getting those Anthrax vibes. I did not want to go back to it. Did not want to go back to it at all. It got to the point where I legitimately think I hate this album. David kind of cued me into some of look, guys, I've said it once and I'll say it again. I don't listen to lyrics. Vocal melody will have my attention, but not so much the lyrics. Like, I don't really give a shit. But David kind of put me on to some of the lyrics on one of these songs, and Spotify shows you the lyrics and all that, and it's just like, God damn, what the hell are you guys doing? What are y'all talking about? Who thought singing about such things was a good idea? Anyway, the guitar solos go back to being absolutely fucking garbage. They're going backwards in that regard, unfortunately. But yeah,
when did they move forward on that? I don't remember. I don't remember when they moved forward on being good solos.
South of Heaven and Seasons of the Abyss, the solos are actually, I mean, I wouldn't go ahead and call them memorable or anything. I'll give you that, but they weren't like goofy as fuck like they'd been previously. Anyway, my low light is going to be Sex, Murder, Art. It's just a stupid fucking song, and I wish it didn't exist. Highlights: Circle of Beliefs. I think it's a good one. And
let me ask you a question. I'm sorry. I hate to cut you off. I apologize. Back to your low light there. Sex, Murder, Art. Is that what it was, right?
Yeah.
Is that better or worse than Moto Psycho?
So first of all, nothing's better than Motorcycle.
Oh, okay.
That's a trick question, Josh.
Yeah. I apologize.
Do you know what Sex, Murder, Art is about?
No.
Oh, well, it's just glorifying like one of the worst. I wouldn't say glorifying. Let me not be one of those guys. It's just about something fucking awful and horrible. You should read the lyrics, or actually you shouldn't. Anyway, my other highlight is Divine Intervention, and I think I would say that Divine Intervention, the song, not this fucking garbage album, it may be my favorite song out of the whole not their whole catalog, but of these four albums, the song Divine Intervention might be my favorite Slayer song. Might be. Wow. I don't know. I haven't decided yet.
All right.
So,
what's your score?
Oh, score is going to be 65%.
Oh shit!
All right.
I will never listen to this album ever again.
I'll go next.
Okay, go ahead.
Last time. I'm going to echo a few things that Adrian said. I will also say that one of the things that I've noticed about Slayer, this is going back to the first four and these four, is that almost every album I like or really like the first like 30 seconds to a minute. Whatever the open is that they put together, I usually like it. This album was the first album in which they changed some of the ways that they seemed to open the songs, and there were not a lot of great openings. The best part of this album is the fact that it's only 36 minutes long. Lowlights for me were Killing Fields and Sex Murder Art.
Yeah.
The only highlight I had was Divine Intervention, and to say to echo something that Josh actually said, where something sounded like new. I will say that in my notes I wrote that the guitars and the drums, whatever they were doing, and that felt new, something that I had not exactly heard before or felt like I had heard before.
Yeah, there was
Other than
guitars and big time.
Yeah. Other than that, like most of the songs are just, I don't know, just par for the course.
They're just it's just meh.
Yeah, I'll say that. Yeah, and not to like I said, I'm not going to get too far into the weeds here, but my overall album ended up being a 54.
All right. I'll go next. I'll let Josh cap us off here. So for me, I don't want to echo too much and just repeat this. Ultimately, this album was fucking terrible. I did not like it pretty much instantly. It was the only album that I literally had to give up halfway through and move on to the next one, or else I was just gonna be done. So I then went back to it and I forced myself to listen to it. The production on this album is god awful. I looked at reviews of this album and it is favorable. This album is favorably reviewed, and I have no clue why. Like,
that's why it's shocking. He said it got to number 8. Jesus.
So,
I wonder if that's just a product of its time.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just like the production to me completely gets in the way. It's bad. That sex murder, what is that?
Art.
Murder Art.
That's got to be one of the worst songs I've ever heard. Overall, this album is a 65. I'm not even going to pretend there's a highlight. Just like Adrian, I will never listen to this record again, ever.
Oh, Sex Murder Art's only 1 minute and 50 seconds. I didn't even realize it. It feels like way longer.
It's 1 minute and 53 seconds too long, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, this album sucks.
What was your score?
65.
Yeah.
Oh, same. Boom.
I just look. I don't know if I'm gonna go out and say this album sucks, but it's definitely full of meh for me. Yeah. I had to force myself to throw a highlight and a skipper on here because I just feel blah about all of it. For me, Tom Araya continues to be the only highlight and really the only redeeming factor of this album. The only song on here that's palatable for me is SS3. The main skipper I had on here was Ditto Head, just because that was kind of the return of the word vomit.
Word vomit. That's what I wrote down on here. Word vomit is back.
Yeah. Overall, I just had this album as said meh, so I had it as a 60 on the shit-o-meter.
You know, why did Tom Araya? He seemed like he learned how to like properly growl and everything with, between South of Heaven and Seasons. Like, I feel like his voice was so good, and I feel like his voice took a step back on this record. Like, all he does was scream every lyric.
Yeah. Well, I get the feeling, I was going to save this point for the next album, but since we're going into it anyway, I get the feeling that he is like, although he's a singer of this band, he doesn't have a ton of input into this.
I agree.
Like in Temptation, right? Like, just I think I wanted that anecdote in there because I found that interesting, was him being the singer, even though like Kerry King is also the guy who's coming up with the vocal melody and making him sing it. So it's like, I don't know if Tom Araya is really into word vomit or if he's just trying to jam in all that bullshit that Kerry King gives him.
It's weird. One part about this whole Metalhead's journey is just having a better understanding of these certain bands' dynamics. And I wonder if the reason, and this is just a rhetorical question, but I wonder if the reason why Megadeth and Metallica seem to just like be better organized is because they have very clear, like the lead singer is also the main riff writer and the lyric writer, you know, between Dave and James, you know, they essentially lead their bands. And True. I wonder if that just makes the dynamic more, it just makes more sense in general.
Well, if the person that ends up singing the lyrics never writes the song, I think that's a big red flag.
Yeah. I mean, look, there's evidence. I mean, I'm sure there's evidence that we just don't even know about. But the first thing that comes to mind for me is Black Sabbath. You know, Ozzy didn't write the lyrics in Black Sabbath. Geezer Butler wrote the lyrics. But the vocal melodies and everything, I mean, maybe they just lend themselves to the music a little bit easier than what Slayer does. But there was nothing that would ever make you feel like Ozzy didn't write those, or it didn't feel like they weren't Ozzy's. It wasn't in Ozzy's voice, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like there's like different versions of Tom Araya as we've gone through this, and I just feel like the word vomit version. I hope that's not him. I hope that's Kerry King, just like holding the gun to his head, saying you got to do it this way.
Yeah. Well,
I get the feeling he likes more of the singing stuff better.
Take us into the new metal journey. That is.
There we go. Here we go.
Hey, what was the aggregate?
Oh, sorry. It was 61. That is, without a doubt, the worst Slayer album we have rated thus far. It's not even close. The next closest is Hell Awaits at 44, so it's not even in the ballpark.
All right. So our next album here, Dave, say it.
Diabolos in Musica.
Yeah, I don't know. However you say it. I would say Diabolus in Musica. Anyway, translated, that's Latin, translated into The Devil in Music. This album came out in June 1998. This album peaked at number 31 on the Billboard charts.
Woof.
So Jeff Hanneman wrote most of this album. This seems like this is the first time they've really kind of messed around with some low tuning. So he wrote the bulk of Jeff Hanneman, excuse me, God damn it. Hanneman wrote the bulk of the record and played mostly in C-sharp tuning, so really detuned. Kerry King is on record as saying that this is his least favorite record in their catalog. And he says he felt like they were just trying to fit Slayer into new metal, basically.
Well, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, this is where
whenever this happens, do y'all think it's their choice, like, or is it their record label's choice, their agent or manager's choice? Like, obviously we've seen
the style.
What's that?
To change the style of the music?
Yeah, we've seen it with Megadeth.
Metallica.
We're going to be seeing it with Anthrax, and of course we know what happens with Metallica.
There's a conversation that's had with the next album in particular with Slayer, with their record label, where they're talking about they sat down with their label and they said, hey, we want a single. And the conversation they had was, well, if you want a single, you better pick something out of these fucking songs because that's all you're going to get. So I get the feeling this is more of a band choice to go to this style. Look, I think anybody can say, I want to keep flying the flag for metal, or I want to do a thing over here, but all these guys also, they want to be successful. I mean, they're doing this for a job at the end of the day, right? So,
yeah, sure.
If that's what was selling records at the time, I think they try to fit into it, right?
Yeah, I agree with you. You have to take into account the timing, and you have to take into account that most music, no matter who it is influenced by the time and what's going on around you.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you got to adapt or you got to be, you got to lead the pack, or you got to sometimes follow the pack. It doesn't always work.
Yeah, so just for context, speaking of that, Jason, this is the same year that the System of a Down's debut album came out, which is recorded by the same producer on the same label. So,
And I mean, there's some serious. I don't know who wants to go first here, but there's some serious System of a Down vibes on some of these songs. Yeah. Go ahead, Jason.
All right, I'll go first. Diabolos Musica. I felt like this was a front-loaded album. I felt like the first 6. This first 6 albums, or 6 songs, sorry, are good, and the back 5 are meh. As far as I don't have any like earth-shattering like highlights, but I did like Death's Head. I did like Overt Enemy. My favorite song on this album is track Bitter Peace. I don't really have a low light, but I just Screaming from the Sky was probably my least favorite, followed by Desire, Scrum, and I did enjoy the a little bit slower, a little more heavy-handed riffs. In fact, that was the highlight of the opening track. Like I said, this was, again, like we talk about, a band that's not afraid to at least attempt to sound different from album to album. Overall, solid album. Unfortunately, like, none of these songs are my favorites, but none of these songs are the worst songs that I've heard. I end up at a 43 overall score for this.
All right.
Cool. I'll go ahead and pop in.
All right, do it.
So the first time I listened to this album, I was at work. I remember after, I have to agree with Jason here. It's very front-loaded to me. The first half is really good. Second half, I don't know if saying it gets old is the right thing to say, but I'm just over it. That being said, I had listened to the last half just as much as I listened to the first half. But anyway, I was at work and I listened to it, and I'm maybe like 3 or 4 songs in, and I remember texting our group chat saying, "Holy shit, this album is fucking awesome." So I growing up in around this time, I guess these were like my formative years, 1998. I guess I was 11 or 12. So obviously I love the music from that time, and the style of nu metal that comes to exist within the years that follow that. I'm a absolute simp, if I can use that word, for nu metal. I don't know if it's nostalgia, and I recognize it as garbage. I really do, but hey, I love it, man. I actually really like. I'll tell you this. I've always been a thrash guy. Death metal. That's always been my bread and butter. But I told this to Dave. I'll take like a chunky, tasty ass groove riff over that any day of the week. And there's definitely a lot of that in this album, which I can appreciate. I just don't think it has much replay value. The production on it's really good. There's great riffs, no guitar solos that really stand out to me at all, or that are any type of memorable. I have no lowlights. There's songs that just kind of exist on here. They don't suck, but that's all. They don't suck. My highlights are the opener, Bitter Peace. I think it's fucking awesome. And Stain of Mind. Yep. I think those are 2 great songs on an otherwise just kind of okay album. My Shidometer score is a 45%.
All right.
Hey, just to interject right quick before we get to the next one. Death's Head, great bass guitar stuff.
Okay. I'll go next real quick. So I while Adrian was talking, I thought of something, and this is my perfect analogy for this record. This record is like a bag of Funyuns. right? It sounds like a good idea, right? And sometimes you're in the mood for them, and then you buy a bag, right?
And
after about like the 5th chip, you're like, I'm done with this. I don't want these anymore. Somebody take this.
I wish this bag had a lid.
I wish this was a bag of Ruffles sour cream and cheddar chip, because
That's a good choice.
those are sex.
wow.
But no, like, honestly, you guys nailed it. I mean, it's completely front loaded, and this record gets old. It doesn't just get old as you're listening to it, but like, I've probably listened to this record 3 or 4 times all the way through. And like, after the 3rd time that I tried to listen to this record, like, as soon as I hit like the 4th or 5th song, I was done with it completely, 100% done with it. And then the 4th time, I didn't even want to hear it. Like, after the 1-2 punch of Bitter Peace and Stain of Mind, I was over it. This record's a 48 for me. I'm not going to recommend it. Now, this record gets a whole lot of hate, and I feel like that's just from diehard Slayer fans. I don't think it deserves the hate that it gets. I think Slayer fans really need to take a hard look at Divine Intervention and decide which is the worst Slayer album. But this one is by far rated the worst Slayer album. It's not even close when you look at pretty much every like website or fan site. This one is like the worst, and I don't think it's quite that bad, but it's a 48 for me.
Yeah, but I think when these bands go through and try to change their sound, right? I mean, there's always this uproar from the classic fans, right? I mean, going to Load, right? I mean, I feel like Load and Reload have gotten more love, 25 years later, 20 years later, whatever it is, certainly than what it did then. And maybe it's the same for this record, right? I mean, hearing it through our ears versus somebody who started with Slayer at Show No Mercy, this sound is more palatable. When I turned this record on, I loved it. I love the sound of it. I love the groove. Same thing with Adrian here. Like, I like thrash and like that, but man, give me a fucking chuggy riff I can headbang to, and that's all I need. And this album is full of that.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I love the sound of this album. One of the other things, and we don't talk about this a lot, but I just noticed this a lot as I was looking at this album on Spotify, is the album art. So it's another thing that, like, they changed their classic Slayer font to a different font for Slayer, and then the album art was really interesting as well.
Yeah.
I really enjoy Slayer, and I know this is all meant to be over the top, incredibly cheesy, but I mean, look, naming the album "The Devil in Music," like, dude, I love their whole shtick. It just gets me. I love it. Great riffs, love the style of the record, very groove. Tom Araya continues to be the fucking man. Jams on this album for me are Bitter Peace, Love to Hate. Fuck, dude, I love this song. I feel like Love to Hate's probably like a top 5 Slayer song for me, and I'm surprised you guys didn't have that in your fucking lowlight. I know some of y'all probably listen to this.
I actually forgot about it, but I don't like that song.
I know you don't, Dave.
It was the lowest rated of the top group.
I don't know why, what it is about this song or why I love it, but this song gets me fucking hyped up every time I hear it. Like, the vocal melody is so good. I get it. It's almost rappy. But I don't know, something about it I love. For me, the only skipper on this album is Scrum.
Absolutely.
Just a very forgettable song for me. I came in with a 38 on this album.
You go.
I liked it.
All right.
That's a good score.
Josh, take
What's
us to... Oh, sorry. 43.5. So...
What was it?
All right.
43.5. So it's the third lowest scoring Slayer album that we have.
All right.
This group of 4?
Total.
Wow.
Total.
That'd be Divine as worse, or
Yeah, Divine being the worst album we reviewed.
And then Hell Awaits.
Hell Awaits, and then Diabolos.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's fine. That's probably, I mean, look, in their catalog, that's probably where it belongs, but I enjoy it. All right. So we're coming up here to the 8th album. This is the last album of the 4 we're talking about tonight. This is God Hates Us All.
He does.
Yeah, this album was released. I usually just put the month and the year here, but I thought this was interesting. This album was released on September 11th, 2001.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a day.
The same day as Toxicity from System of a Down. Also, while we brought them up already.
While we're talking about that, yeah, it was supposed to come out a couple of months sooner than this, but they had to continue. They had to push it back due to some recording and just production issues. So it actually ended up coming out on September 11th. This album peaked at number 28 on the Billboard charts. This album saw their first Grammy nomination for the song "Disciple."
Wow.
It did lose to Tool for Schism.
Yeah.
So what we see on this album is the band continuing to toy with downtuning. Most of the albums are still recorded in C sharp, while 3 songs are actually done in drop B, and 2 songs were recorded with 7-string guitars on here. And this is the first time in 5 albums that they didn't work with Rick Rubin as the producer of this album.
Huh. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Also, a little note from Kerry King here. He says, you don't have to be a good guitar player to write music in 7-string guitars. So I'm just determined that Kerry King's a fucking doucher, man. Like, you know what's so funny is, like, from afar, you see Kerry King and you see this persona, right? And, you know, a bald white guitar player, beard, compared to what Kerry King has. Like, you always look at Kerry King with the tattoos on his head and think, this dude's like, he's got to be badass. This guy's a fucking douche, man.
Nah, he's
talking about. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say like normally, like, you know, a lot of the metal bands, I'd be like, man, I'd want to like have a sit down, like I'd want like 5-minute interview with them or like something. Like I'd want to meet them, dude. I would not want to meet Kerry King. Like I would not be interested because the dude would probably was just shit in my lunch. Like within 2 minutes of meeting him.
Yeah. So
wait,
I'm not a big
writing music with a 7-string guitar is not hard.
That's basically what he said. He said you don't have to be that good of a player to write good riffs on a 7-string guitar.
Man, I think
that he hates this album just as much as he hates the other fucking 7, or
no. Okay. I'm guessing that he actually contributed some riffs to this one, so he didn't have anything negative to say about this album.
Gotcha. Okay.
Who wants to go first?
What's that?
Who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
All right.
I'm putting my quarters down. I'm going next.
Okay.
God Hates Us All is an album that I was actually familiar with. I might have started jamming it when I was 18 or 19. And I fucking loved it back then. And I think it was kind of a matter, and I explained this to you guys already, it was kind of a matter of it's fast as fuck, it's angry, it's heavy, and that's just all the shit that I loved as a guitar player at that age. I actually didn't know that it wasn't Dave Lombardo on the drums. Is it the same dude that comes in with Divine Intervention? Well, I think
Paul Bostaph.
Okay, yeah, I think he definitely shows up for this album. Though I will say his mix, the drums are just so fucking loud. And I didn't really notice that, when I had the CD for it. But yeah, I feel like the drums kind of take over a lot of it. I do love me some low tune guitars, and I do love me some 7-string action with that B tuning. And Disciple will forever be just one of the fucking like that riff, that opening riff for it is just so fucking gnarly. It's one of those times where I'm like, I need to learn how to play that right away. And I don't know if y'all remember, but I'd play that riff all the time when we used to practice. Very simple riff. So Kerry King, he wasn't wrong. Anyway, let's. I was looking at our YouTube here. Let me go back to my notes here. All right, so I don't hate this album. I don't, but I do think they might have been trying to recreate the magic that they had with Rain and Blood. That's just the vibe I get from this. Other than the fact that it's 2001, they're low tuning, they're trying to keep up with the times, sure. But the guitar solos in this album, which is very interesting, because I was telling you guys earlier that I didn't think there were any guitar solos in this album. There certainly are, but I guess I thought there weren't because they're so fucking unmemorable that they might as well not exist. I feel like that it's the guitar solos on this album that I think they take away from it. They are just not fucking good. Just like Diablos and Musica, I think it's very front loaded, and the whole shtick of it gets old very fast. Back in the CD days where you pop a CD in your car, I know for sure I felt the same way. I would just listen to the first half of the CD because I didn't really feel the last half so much. I don't hate this album, but I honestly would not recommend it to anybody. If I wanted to turn them on to Slayer, that is. I think it's a big time product of its time, and I just think the production is intentionally aggressive as far as the drums go. And again, I didn't realize that at the time, but like listening to it with headphones and all you're getting is fucking snare and hi hats. It's pretty brutal. I have one low light, and that's I don't even know how to say this word. Deviance. Is that right?
Deviance.
Deviance. Is that it? Is that it?
Yeah.
Deviance.
Sure, let's go with it.
Yeah,
That
was my least favorite song on this album.
It has this weird fucking intro that I don't know what the fuck they're trying to do with that. But it's like the stock scream that you hear like in every old school horror movie of a woman screaming. Anyway, highlights. I have two of them: A Disciple and Cast Down. I think those songs are really fucking good. God Hates Us All. I am giving that a 55 on the shitometer.
Wow,
55.
Yeah.
All right.
That's brutal. Yeah, for me. Yeah, I'm up. I don't know what you're listening to, Gomez. This fucking album is it's their best album that we've reviewed so far for Slayer by far. There are no lowlights on this album for me. I love the groove of this album. I disagree. I think there are actually some good solos on this album for the first time in Slayer's history. And I absolutely love the direction of this album. I love the fucking title of this album. And hearing him scream, God Hates Us All during Disciple. God damn it, man. That gets me so fucking amped up every time I hear it.
Me too, and I
think. Yeah. Hey, look, I get it. I get it. Like I said, this is all very like cheesy, cringy shit. But for whatever reason, this is the shit that I really enjoy. It just makes me laugh more so than anything else. This is like the long lost new metal record that I wish I had when I was 18. This album would have come out when I was 17. So when I was like 17 years old, like I wish I had this album. I would fuck out of this thing then. I absolutely added this to my playlist now. This is an album that I will revisit many times going forward here. Highlights for me: Disciple, obviously. God Send Death. The solo in God Send Death is probably the best solo they've done up to this point that we've listened so far. Threshold, love the lyrics, very cool groove. Bloodline, fucking vocals are really, really good. And then I love the last track, Payback. I just, look, it's kind of cheesy, but I just love the fact that they stop multiple times during the song to say, "Payback's a bitch, motherfucker." I came in on this album with a 21 on the shitometer.
Dang.
I got next.
Go for it.
So, I would say this record was a slow was a slow burn for me. So, I was coming from Diabolus, and I was kind of getting a little bit tired of it, and I was like, okay. So I put on God Hates Us All, and man, like, I have to echo something Josh said. I know, Adrian, you kind of remarked on the production being very drums heavy, but I don't know, man. Like, I agree with you, but man, when you crank this album in your car and you're just fucking flying down the freeway, like, dude, this shit is so good. I actually thought the production. Now where I will agree with you is, like, if I only had like if I'm working and listening to it and I only had my headphone in one of my ears, then yes, the production isn't good in that environment. But like I said, overall, I thought this was a very, very strong record. And my highlights, I'm gonna get my notes pulled up here real quick. So I like Disciple. I mean, I don't think I think there's no way you can't choose that song. It's so low hanging fruit, but it's just a great song. Bloodline, Exile, Godsend, Death. There's others I could name that were good. I don't think this album really has any lowlights for me. Overall, I think this is a really fun record to put on and kind of just like turn off your brain and just jam. I came in at a 30 on this record. I really enjoyed it.
All right, I guess it's up to me. Bring some order to this motherfucker. All right, so I'm gonna echo some of this that's already been said. This is very good. This would be, and this I'm gonna rip Josh off right here. High school all the way up to say my early 30s would have fucking loved this record. As I've matured, I don't need to like the escapism of some of the anger and some of the vitriol that is in some of this in this album. But Jesus, Exile, like that song was written for my ex-wife, 100%. As far as the highlight, my favorite song on this, and Josh already kind of brought it up, Payback. That song is perfect, and I have it right here. It's a great song to just crank up and just fucking let it rip.
Yeah. Rip your fucking eyes out. Rip your fucking skin out.
Yeah.
Like, look, it's not traditionally good here, okay? But
yes, but it's fun. It's fun. Other highlights: Godsend, Death, Threshold. Let's see, Bloodline, Warzone. I wish Here Comes the Pain was better because that is a fucking great song title. I only have two lowlights, and they're not really that low. Deviance, my least favorite song. And the very opening track, Darkness of Christ, I really don't even want to consider the song.
That's fair.
You know what? That song does a good job, though, really, of leading up to Disciple.
Yeah, it's a good
I skip
setup,
it every time.
But yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I agree with you. I skip it as well, but it's not. I don't think it should be a low light.
No, well, again, that's what I was saying. Just if it's a standalone song, then it would be a low light. But again, it's I have a hard time considering a. If you keep Darkness of Christ in the mix, I gave the album a 33. Take Darkness of Christ out, it comes in at a 31.
So 33 it is.
Yeah.
All right.
So I have to. Well, before we move on from God Hates Us All, I think I have to say, Josh and Jason, I'll say I'll wish you'll have this album at that crucial age. But I got to tell you, I think that's exactly why I dislike it so much because I had it at that crucial age, and I guess I just
outgrew it.
grew up past it, and I don't know. I think that's why I liked Megadeth and Metallica still, and I liked Megadeth so much, and you know, I guess the bands that I listen to now started getting into classic rock in my mid to late 20s, and well, you know, I'm all about that shit in my 30s.
Yeah.
Is that I'm just not angry and angsty and pissed at the world anymore. So, you know, I feel like by the time I was like 25 or whatever, like, uh, I thought God Hates Us All was so fucking cheesy.
You know, that's
I like it, and that's a fair assessment. But I like I said, I think the cool thing about this journey is the fact that you experienced this album when you should have, and me and Josh did not.
or me.
Yeah. It's like kind of like going back and listening to Limp Bizkit. I mean, it's just you know, I need some crackers with that fucking cheese, man. Really?
Yeah, but there's still nothing better than chocolate starfish and the hot dog flavored water. Like that album is bangers from start to front.
I mean, you're preaching the choir here, but
that record's cringe as fuck.
No, it's not.
Fred Durst is the worst lyricist. Like,
I'll tell you what. I
Ever.
bet you. I bet you anything. I could sing almost every single song word for word.
well, that's because
at least
look. I didn't say that if we didn't put it on, that I wouldn't jam it, but it's garbage. As long as we all recognize that.
Hey, that's all I'm trying to say about God Hates Us All. That's all I'm trying to say.
I refuse to acknowledge that.
Yeah, like for me, it's the Slipknot's like debut in like 1999 record. Like that record like spoke to me as a teen in high school, but I've tried to listen to that like somewhat recently, and it's just like nope, it's cringe.
Iowa's way
I don't
worse.
know, man. I don't like. I don't know. Like you mentioned, like being like angry and all this stuff. Like I don't know. I can't remember if I felt that way then. I certainly don't feel that way now.
What about like Rebellious or?
Well, I think that was like the initial thing of getting into metal, right? My dad was a big fan of country music, and so this was. I mean, without going to rap music, this was, you know, this was the furthest thing from that I could get. So I think being a metal fan in general, first and foremost, is rebellious.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it is probably the least of the major genres out there. It's probably the least accepted. I still think, even to this day.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I can't tell you why. I look at Slayer and I God Hates Us All, and I think, fuck yeah, that's good stuff.
Man,
Like
that's
it's just something about it just tickles me.
That's how I know Metallica are kings, because I got into them when I was in 7th grade, and I still think they're good. Not all their music, though. We'll get to them later. So, God Hates Us All, aggregate score, 34.75. So that it ties Seasons in the Abyss. I'm okay with that.
Like they both are at 34.75.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, something I wanted to do, I don't know if I did this last time, but I'm going to do it now. I'm going to give everybody their average Slayer scores thus far. So, Adrian, you're at a 36.88. Josh, you're at a 40.25.
Is this all albums or just these last 4?
All 8.
Okay.
I am at a 35, and Jason's at a 42.25. So
That sounds about right.
They're the most, huh?
Yeah.
yeah.
I listen to them when I go to bed.
So just for reference, while I'm thinking about it, Anthrax average scores so far: 50.50 from Adrian, 66 from Josh, 64.5 for me, and 48 from Jason. So Jason likes Anthrax more than any of us. We'll see.
Man.
We'll
That
see.
song Panic is the shit. I'll give Anthrax that.
We'll see if that continues. Josh, what are we doing next in the journey there?
Yeah, so we're going back to the land of Anthrax. Yay! We got the next 4 Anthrax albums here. So we got Persistence of Time, we got The Sound of White Noise, we've got Stomp 442, And then we have Volume 8, The Threat is Real.
Oh man, what is the name of that third album? Stomp what?
Stomp 442.
I'm gonna want someone to stomp my fucking skull.
442 times.
Well, good thing is we're coming back. We're coming back a lot sooner for this Anthrax spot. So we'll be back here in 3 weeks covering these 4 albums. And look, I've already listened to Persistence of Time all the way through, and it's probably the best Anthrax album so far.
Ooh. And spoiler alert, I did not realize that Sound of White Noise was Anthrax, but I've had that album time. I love that album.
Whoa.
There you go. I think we're in for some slightly better scores this time around. So I'm optimistic.
What is the consensus of these next 4 albums? You know, in the Anthrax verse.
These are outside of Persistence of Time. The general consensus is that the John Bush era is the worst era of Anthrax.
Well,
From the Anthrax lovers.
and does he continue? Is he their singer from here moving forward, or
no? He's
I think
We
it's for
still
3
got
albums.
Joey for Persistence.
yeah.
So
So
the next album is still Joey, and then
3 with Bush, and then their last 3 albums has 1 with Bush and then 2 with Joey.
oh, right on.
So here's the thing: when they did the Big 4, they didn't even invite John Bush back. When they did their reunion tour, they didn't invite John Bush back. So like, the band doesn't even like John Bush. They don't sing any of his. They don't really. I mean, they probably sing a few of their songs live, but
Does he get to write his own vocals?
I don't
His own
know.
lyrics?
I don't know.
Scott Ian does.
I listened to
Sounds
I listened to like half of the Sound of White Noise, and I felt like I was listening to Stone Temple Pilots, and I was pretty much done with it. But we'll see.
Hey, look, you can't tell me STP is not an improvement over the first 4 Anthrax albums, bro. If you're telling me we at least get STP coming up here, I'm in.
Yeah. We'll see. Well, let's head out here, guys. We'll catch you next time.
All right.
Take it easy, everybody.
Live long and